Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli here, back out in the shop. And in today's shop video, by popular demand, I have a topic that I think you're gonna like. And in today's shop video, we're gonna talk about a box, a tackle box that stays in my boat all the time. Winter, spring, summer, fall, from New York to California to Texas, this box never leaves my boat. And in today's shop, we're going to be talking about the theory behind and the lures inside of the panic box. The panic box. Okay, let's start with the theory of the panic box and why this box always stays in my boat. And if you followed my career over the years, you know that this box has saved my butt a lot. And the theory of always carrying this and having a dedicated box labeled panic box is that in emergency situations, it's there. It's ready. It's in your face, right? A good analogy is maybe like a fire extinguisher. You know, you have a fire extinguisher, it's usually bright red or bright white, and it's always mounted somewhere where you can get to it really easy, right? Where it's noticeable. That's the same theory for me in this box. And this box is always in my back terminal tackle hatch, which is right behind my driver's seat. I'm in there a lot. And when things get brutally tough, when bass are tricky and not biting and non-responsive, and I'm back there fiddling around, I see that thing, and it makes me stop and say, okay, I can still catch some fish. I can save this day. I can salvage points and pounds by utilizing this panic box, okay? So that's the first part of this theory is, you know, having this box in your boat at all time. Here's the great thing, guys. If you're watching, if you're a bank fisherman, a john boat, a kayak, bass boat, whatever, you can create one of these and keep it with you all the time, okay? All right, let's talk about why the panic box. You know, the conditions when I'm going to open this box. And, you know, I think there's two main scenarios that I'm really going to go for the panic box, when I'm going to reach into this box. The first one is pretty obvious, and it's when the fishing is brutally tough. When the fishing gets tough. That's one scenario I'm reaching for my panic box, okay? So, you know, a lot of things can make the fishing tough, but let me tell you a couple of the common ones. Cold front. We all deal with that, a cold front scenario where the weather's steady, then a storm system's coming, a front is approaching. The barometer's dropping, the fish are biting, the front passes, the barometer rises, the temperature drops. It's a bluebird day. There's no wind, it's sunny. The weather makes the fishing tough, right? The conditions. So tough fishing because of weather, fronts. Tough fishing because of fishing pressure. And guys, if you're watching this, we're seeing more and more of that every year since COVID. You go to your favorite lake, you get down to your favorite stretch of bank, and as you get there and you look, there's 10 boats, 12 boats, 20 boats in front of you. And every one of them is power fishing with big swim baits and jigs and chatterbaits and spinner baits and swim jigs, and every one of them is power fishing, looking sexy. Great scenario to go for your panic box because of fishing pressure, heavy fishing pressure. The last one when the fishing gets real tough and when I'm reaching for this is extreme clear water. And that scenario, you're going to encounter that when you're fishing. You know, the water's not dirty, the water's not stained, the water's clear to the point where fish are ignoring this stuff. The frogs, the poppers, the crankbaits. The water's so clear, the water clears up that the stuff that you're throwing is too big, too bulky, too obvious. You need something small and compact. You need something little because the fishing gets tough because the water got clear, right? There's 3 examples of the panic box for tough fishing. Let me give you one more, and then we're going to open this up, and I'm going to talk to you about what kind of lures to fill this box with, okay? The second scenario for when I reach for my panic box, you ready for this? Is when the forage gets small. When the forage gets little. And we're going to encounter that during the year. You're going to get to a place where when you show up, they're not eating bluegill and shad that are 4 inches. They're not eating golden shiner and hitch that are 6 inches. And they're not eating gizzard shad or tilapia that are 8 or 10 inches. We're going to experience a time when we get to a place where their forage, what they're feeding on, is little. Dude, I'm talking 3 inches or smaller. A lot of places we fish, that's the size of the forage all year round. But specifically, post-spawn, early summer, even early fall, there's a lot of little bait in the water. And the reason for that, it's the young of the year hatch. It's the young of the year spawn, right? So the crappie spawn, the smallmouth spawn, the largemouth, the bluegill, the carp are spawning, the catfish are spawning, everything's spawning. And then come June, July, and August, dude, that's the fry, right? That's the spawn hatch. And when that happens, sometimes, guys, this stuff does not work, and you got to go to your panic box because of the size of the forage. So match the hatch by going little, by going to these panic-sized baits. All right, couple scenarios why I'm going to go to this thing. Let's take a look inside. All right, before I get into this box, let me remind you that this panic box and this theory and system is based around finesse fishing. So these are not lures that I'm fishing on a heavy casting rod with braid. No. This whole panic box system is based around a spinning rod, a lighter line, and smaller, lighter baits, okay? So remember, I'm talking about a 7-foot to 7.5-foot medium or medium light spinning rod, okay? I'm talking about a 20 or 30 size spinning reel with light braid to a fluorocarbon leader, all right? 10 or 15 pound braid to 6 to 10, maybe 12, 6 to 10 pound fluorocarbon leader. So light braid to a light fluorocarbon leader on a spinning rod. These panic baits are finesse baits, all right? Here it goes. All right, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to give you without spilling it, I'll try to give you a view of these lures that are in here. And I carry probably about a dozen different categories. But I'm going to show you my top 4 or 5 key panic lures for me. And I'll try to explain to you a little bit about when I would throw that, okay? So let's start with maybe one that's maybe a little more obvious, but it's been a key player in my panic box. And the first one I'm going to talk to you about is small grubs and small swim baits, okay? To me, these baits are almost one and the same. I'm an old guy, so before the advent of Finesse swim baits, we just had grubs. And these Finesse grubs and swim baits, guys, I'm literally talking about they're 1 to 3 inches long, okay? 1 to 3 inches. And, you know, this is one of my favorites for sure. A 2-inch Berkley Power Bait Power Grub. Really, honestly, this is designed for panfish and crappie and trout, but I love the 2-inch Berkley Power Grub. And then I love the 2 or 3-inch Berkley Power Bait swim baits. Ripple Shad by Berkley Power Bait. Berkley Power Swimmer 2.8, which is what that one is, 2.8. So little grubs and little swim baits, all right? Key player in my panic box. And let me give you a scenario. You're fishing a bigger swim bait, a 3.8, a 4.3, a hollow belly. You're fishing a big 5-inch Berkley Power Bait hollow belly, and you're fishing it during normal fishing conditions. A big front comes through, and the water temperature drops. There's no cloud and wind anymore. It's bluebird sun, and it's flat as a pancake. You're out there with your hollow belly. You've went 4 hours without a bite. You're still seeing them on your active target. You still believe the fish are there. I'm reaching for my panic box. And I'm replacing that big swim bait with something that's very similar to that, right? A grub or a swim bait. Same area, the fish are there, they're not eating. This is going to salvage my day. This is going to bail me out and allow me to get some bites, okay? So it's almost like I don't want to deviate too far from what I was doing, but I'm just switching to this panic size and panic weight. As I go through this box, you're going to notice that a lot of these weights of these baits, the baits are smaller and the weights are smaller, right? So pre-front, I'm throwing that big swim bait on a 1/2 ounce or a 3/8 with a bait caster. They stop hitting it. 1/16 ounce, an 1/8 ounce, a 3/16, and hardly ever gone above a 1/4 ounce. Most of the time, light weights. 30 seconds, 1/16 ounce, 1/8 ounce, right? So same category, same area, they stopped hitting. I'm going to go to my panic box and try to mimic what I was doing before the front with something different, okay? So small grubs, small swim baits, great category. All right, here it goes, guys. I'm going to show you one of my top lures in my panic box for a lot of years. And I almost don't want to talk about this, but I do. And another category that's in my panic box is inline spinners. Guys, inline spinners. And if you like to trout fish or crappie fish or bluegill fish, you know what an inline spinner is, right? I'd like to carry a couple basic styles with me, okay? So if you look, I'll see if I can find this third one that I carry real quick. Here's one here, if I can get it out. So I like to carry inline spinners that have willow blades. I really like the rooster tails. A 1/16 ounce, an 1/8. This is an 1/8 right here. Up to 3/16. Never hardly ever bigger than 3/16. So inline spinners with willow blades, inline spinners with Indiana style blades. This one's a Panther Martin, little 1/16 ounce Panther Martin. And then last but not least, I like to carry some inlines with Colorado blades, with more rounded blades on them. This is a MEPS blade, a little bit bigger, 3/16. Okay? Guys, amazing bait when you're fishing a spinner bait, when you're fishing a chatterbait, and the fishing goes south. The water clears up. You get to your spot where you've been catching them on a spinnerbait, and there's 10 boats all around you, and everybody's chucking a spinnerbait on a bait caster. Every one of them. The fish aren't cooperating. Go to an inline spinner. Amazing. I cannot tell you how many times in my career this has saved me in a tournament where 4 or 5 hours in, I have nothing, and I switch to an inline spinner, and I'm able to catch a limit or, 10 pounds. And that extra weight, extra points advances me. So critical. All right, real quick on the inline spinners. Pick your blade styles just like you do on your spinnerbait, okay? So clear water, where flash is more important, I like the willow style blade. I also like the willow style blade if there's some vegetation around, willow. Indiana, when the water gets a little stained, you want a little bit more vibration than flash, I like the Indiana blade. And then last but not least, when you were fishing a Colorado blade spinnerbait, if the water's more stained to dirty, they're going to find this because that round blade has a lot of thump to it. Slow rolling, that round blade's a little better. It's got more boom, boom, boom. If the chatterbait bite was hot and dirty water and they stopped biting it, Colorado blade or Indiana blade, inline spinner, okay? Inline spinner, it's a great, great alternative when the things go south. All right, another category that I carry in my panic box is basically ultralight finesse jerk baits. Another key bait that's been in this box for a lot of years. And I basically carry 2 different style of these finesse jerk baits. The one is a floating minnow bait or jerk bait, and the other one is a suspending style jerk bait. And if you look at them, just like everything we've looked at so far, right? Small, 3 inches or smaller, light, little. And I love these things for when that big jerkbait bite dies or when that bigger topwater bite dies. And I'm going to explain each one, okay? Let's start with the bigger suspending jerkbait, and that's a key category. That little one is just a great complement for when they shut off of that or when that forage is little, right? And we talked about when it's post-spawn, when there's all that fry in the water. Dude, a regular sized 3-hooked jerkbait that's 5, 6, 7 inches long, it doesn't look like what they're eating. But when there's a lot of fry in the water, look at that little Rapala Husky jerk. Perfect imitation for mimicking that fry in the water. Bass fry, perch fry, carp fry. Guys, it looks just like it, okay? So little suspending jerkbait, love it when you fishing a full-size jerkbait and they stop biting it, or when there's a ton of fry in the water. Then the other one, and this one's, a lot of guys forgot about it. This is the original Rapala floating minnow. So it's a minnow bait, but it's a floater. And I love this little floating jerkbait when I want to catch them on top. So, if I had been catching them on a walking bait or a popper or a prop bait, and that bite stops, they're still there, but they get picky, they got picked over, I got 1 day left of the tournament, I can't get them to bite that. I love going back with this little floating jerkbait, but I fish it on the top. So I'm making long cast, I'm literally letting it sit and I just hit it, tunk, and that lip pulls it under, and it floats back up. I hit it, hits, and floats back up. Fishing this jerkbait as a top water when things get tough, clear water, heavy fishing pressure, phenomenal. Okay, so little jerkbait. I got 2 more staples, and then I'll wrap it up. Guys, sleeper, panic box bait is the hair jig. And this has been in there from day one. I honestly carry 3 colors. I carry brown, white, and black. And great bait for when that bite just tightens up. Clear water. I'll give you a couple scenarios. Clear water. When you encounter fish that you can see, largemouth, spotted bass, smallmouth, cruising the flats, everything you throw at them, drop shot, Ned rig, spy bait, not working. A 1/16 ounce, an 1/8 ounce black hair jig, just reeling it real slow. It does nothing in the water. That marabou or that synthetic hair just pulses. Just barely pulses. Dude, it will make them bite. Okay, so cruising fish that you see, black is great. Schooling fish, when you get around fish that are busting bait, but the bait's little, the bait's small, a white hair jig is phenomenal. Just swimming it through the level of the bait. Last but not least, a little brown hair jig. A lot of times when that water gets really cold, they stop hitting a full-size skirted jig, right? The water's, it's late fall, it's early winter, it's early spring. You're dragging a football jig, a missile headbanger, and they stop eating it. I'll take a little brown hair jig and work it on the bottom. Looks like a little crawfish. Perfect, okay? So small hair jigs. Once again, guys, remember, 32nd ounce up to a quarter, but the 1/8, the 16th, and I'm fishing it on a light spinning rod. Medium or medium light, 7 to 7.5 foot spinning rod, light braid to a light floor leader, right? This is, the panic box is finesse fishing. All right, last but not least, and I want to make sure I get this in here because it's really saved the day a lot, are small crankbaits. And I'll actually give you a couple. And I'm talking about small lipless crankbaits and small lipped crankbaits, okay? So little rattle traps, 1/8 ounce, 3/16 ounce rattle traps. A Rapala Rip and Wrap makes a little one. So little lipless vibrations and little ultralight crankbaits. Back in the beginning when I was filling this box, they would call them crappie crankbaits. Crankbaits that were made for crappie fishing. But there's a lot of different ones out now. The Berkeley makes some. Rapala makes some. The Brat. There's some Japanese ones. Ultralight crankbaits that are more designed for panfish and perch and trout, they're in this box. Same thing, guys. When you're out rattle trapping in the spring and that bite dies because there's 80 dudes fishing rattle traps around you, great scenario for the small lipless. When you're in a tournament and you've cranked all day past your best stretches and you can't get a bite, great scenario for an ultralight crankbait. And last but not least, when that forage is small, how many tournaments that I've been able to catch fish where guys can't get bit because I'm matching the hatch. Look at that. That crankbait's 1 3/4 long. And I'm matching the forage size. The shad's little. All the bait fish are small. You're matching the hatch, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this one. I had so many questions over the years, guys, of when, where, why I fish that panic box. It never leaves my boat. I hope this explained a little bit about the theory of always carrying this with you, of keeping it visible like a fire extinguisher, and using it in combination with your finesse rod to save the day, to salvage the day. A trip where you would have zeroed, you're able to catch a limit or a couple fish. Get those points, get those pounds, save the day. That's what the Panic Box is all about. Man, I hope you liked this shop video today talking about the Panic Box. You like what you're watching? Hit that subscribe button. If you subscribe, we're going to send you a notification, and we have a new video going up every single week. If you're already subscribed, do me a favor. Tell your fishing buddies about the Panic Box, about Mike Iaconelli Fishing on YouTube, and we'd love to help them become a better angler as well. So, hope you enjoyed this one, talking about the Panic Box. Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli. I hope you enjoyed this week's In the Shop. I hope you learned a little bit. And if you like these videos, remember, there's a whole boatload. Check out these two, and you're going to learn more about bass fishing.